Today's video is on my most requested topic, grafting onto mature avocado trees. If you've seen me graft in other videos, I'm in my shade house and we're grafting onto seedlings that look a lot like this little avocado tree here. Today, we're going to be out in the grove behind me grafting onto juvenile and even some mature trees that are well established. But the reason for the video is for you folks at home, for the backyard grower. And it's for a very particular type of backyard grower. There are a lot of you out there who at some point ate a delicious avocado. And you saved the pit. You took that pit and you used this toothpick method you've been seeing all your life, right? And you planted the seed, you got it to sprout some roots, and then a little shoot came up. Then within a few months, you had a whole tree growing on your windowsill, either in your dorm room or your kitchen or in your apartment or on your balcony, whatever. And it got to the point where you had to transplant that thing to a pot. And then many of you took it from a pot and actually planted it in your yard. And you've been caring for that tree and you've been waiting for that tree to bear delicious avocados. And then I came along and burst your bubble. About 6 weeks ago, I did a video that explained why growing an avocado tree from seed will give you terrible tasting fruit. And that you've got about a 1 in 10,000 chance of that seed you planted growing to maturity and giving you fruit that you'll actually want to eat. And once people started watching that video, I received a tidal wave of requests. Tom, what can I do? I planted a seed 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 8 years ago. I've got a beautiful tree growing in my yard. Is there any hope? What can I do to make this tree give me good tasting fruit? And fortunately, the answer is yes. You need to graft your tree. And you can graft a mature tree just like you can graft a seedling. So have no fear. Let's go into the grove and I'll show you how we do that. Now I happen to have out here in my grove a tree very similar to the scenario I described before, which is a tree you might have that's been grown from seed. Now, why would I have a tree grown from seed in my grove, right? Aren't all my trees grafted? Well, the answer is yes. Yes, they are. And when I planted this tree, it was actually not ready to be out in the grove yet. I should have let it sit another season in a pot. I planted it when it was too small and I didn't really take much care of it. And what happened was the graft died and the tree reverted to rootstock. So for all intents and purposes, this tree here behind me is the equivalent of if you planted a tree from seed and it's now 4, 5, 6 years old. I put it in the ground, it was about 8 inches high. Here's the graft. Here's below the graft. So as you see, this graft is actually dead. Look at this, is just a dead, brittle stick. It's dead. That would have been a variety, actually the Haas variety avocado. Obviously, it's dead, right? Now what happened in the meantime is here's the graft and here's where it starts. We have rootstock shooting out from underneath the graft, resulting in this tree behind me, a seed-grown tree that's about 6.5 to 7 feet tall. Perfect to illustrate how to graft onto an already existing mature avocado tree. Today I'll be grafting cuttings of the Donny avocado variety. And the reason I chose Donny is because that's an early season avocado. And most of my varieties are late season, which is fine by me. But it's not fine by you guys, because I start getting messages early in the year, can I buy some fruit, can I buy some fruit? And I start keeping a long waiting list of people who want to buy fruit, and I can't sell it till September. And then every September, when I can finally sell the fruit, I flip the switch on my website. There's a guy named David. Every year, David is the first guy to buy my fruit. I'm not going to say his last name because I don't have his permission to, broadcast his personal information on the internet. But every year, David somehow figures out that I'm selling fruit, and he is the first one, and he's the first order in. So what I would like to do is I have a few early season varieties like Simmons. I want to augment my Simmons with some Donnies that come in around May. And that way I'll be able to sell May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, and sometimes even into January. So this little baby behind me, we're going to turn into a Donny avocado. The first thing we got to do to turn this little guy into a Donny avocado tree is pick about 6 or 7 spots onto which we want to graft Donny budwood. So I got about 7 spots onto which I want to do grafts. The next thing I have to do is go cut the budwood. I already have a bunch of budwood cut for my Donnies, but I'll show you on this Simmons what we do to harvest our budwood. So I'm looking for new growth. I'm looking for soft green growth. And I have a branch right up here that's exactly perfect for what we want to do today. As you could see, this is new growth, right? It's got like a soft green skin as opposed to more of a bark. See the difference here? This is older growth, this is new growth. The second thing we look for are these little spikes. You see these here? These are new sprouts trying to push through. You can really see them up here. That. And then the last thing I like about this piece is it's very wide down here and it kind of tapers. And we try to match the size of our scion to the size of the root stock that we're grafting onto. So if I take this guy from about here up, smooth it out a little bit, I have a good candidate. And like I said, Simmons is also an early season. So I'm going to put one of these Simmons budwood onto that tree, as well as a bunch of Donnies. I'm going to use two different types of grafts to attach the budwood to the rootstock. And the first one, I think it's called a cleft graft, but I'm not 100% sure. But the first thing I want to do with this graft that I'm calling a cleft graft is I want to match the diameter of my budwood to the diameter of my rootstock, which is somewhere, I guess maybe right about there. So I'll clip this guy off here. The next thing we do is we make a slit in our rootstock, not directly across the diameter. We do it a little bit offset, a little bit off center. But you see there, I've made that little split. The next thing I do is take my budwood or my scion and I slice a little wedge on each side, just one clean cut. Boom. Boom. So now I've got this little wedge here that I'm going to insert into the slit we made. And the main thing you want to do is keep it flush. You want to have your budwood flush with your rootstock. And this one's really good, at least if one side is flush. But if both sides are flush, that's better. And then we wrap with grafting tape. The main thing you want to do is while you're wrapping it, you want to make sure you pinch with your fingers and keep the edges of the budwood touching the edges of your rootstock, of your branch in this case. Then we take our tape and put a little bit of a twist into it to make more of like a string. And we take that string we just made and wrap it tight. Wrap it tight right around the graft. Pull it tight. And then we tie it off like this. And there's our first graft. Here you see our two cleft grafts. Now we're going to move on to do what I think is called a veneer graft. Something a little different. Now we're going to try to do a veneer graft. And unlike the cleft graft where you're taking a budwood and putting it, directly at the top of the branch, in this case we're going to open up some of the bark laterally on the branch, open up bark on the budwood, and mate them together like this. So the first thing we got to do is very similar to the cleft graft. We do have to cut away the green part of the bark on our budwood like that, and then on the other side we make just a little wedge cut, and then similarly on the tree itself we have to expose underneath the green. Hopefully I could do this without cutting myself. And then at the very bottom, of our cut, we just put a little wedge that we're going to insert the budwood into. And we take our budwood and we match the two sides that we cleared. We put the wedge into the little notch that we made. Match those two up like so, and wrap it up. Then we get up top, we'll just kind of come in between here like this, kind of tie it off, and just tie it down tight. 1, 2, 3, tie it off. All right, so there you have it. I've got a graft here, 2 over there. That veneer graft I tried, which by the way, that's the first time I ever tried one of those, so I'm not sure if that's gonna work or not. But I got what, 1, 2, 3, 4. I still gotta do this branch, that. I'll have about 7 on here when I'm done. And the observant amongst you have noticed that I did a Simmons right here and a Donnie right there. Yes, that is absolutely possible. You could graft 2 separate varieties onto the same tree, and I'm actually hoping one of each takes, because I'd love to have a tree that actually is producing 2 different types of fruit just for the novelty of it. And so now you know, not only can you graft a mature avocado tree, but you also know how to graft a mature avocado tree. So if you're one of those people who planted a seed years ago and you've been waiting patiently for your tree to bear fruit in your yard, and your dreams were crushed when you saw my videos telling you that it wasn't going to bear fruit, well, now you know how to make it bear fruit. The only challenge might be is how do you get your hands on this bud wood or scion wood? And one very good way to do that is to go to our website, guacfarm.com. GUACFARM.com. We sell these clippings of the different varieties of avocado trees we have around the farm. And if you feel like you don't really want to do the grafting and you'd rather just jump right to it and buy a grafted avocado tree, we sell those as well. And if you don't want to grow a tree at all, but you want to enjoy this delicious fruit, then you could buy a 10-pound box of avocados out there. Or you can get yourself one of these t-shirts. Now I got to wrap up this tree and get 3 more grafts on it, and then I got to run over across town to a doctor's appointment. So while I'm doing that, you go out to guacfarm.com, and I will see you on the next video.